All right, so today's story is my story, and today is if you have inherited any characteristics of your father's parents, describe what they are and how you feel about them. And I was thinking that I think first that was really I feel black excellence. I know that sounds crazy, but I guess it doesn't sound crazy, but like they had we lived in Chester, but it didn't. I never felt that my grandpa parents were poor, but they just didn't live like how I saw my white counterparts live. So, but I never seen them worry about money, and but what was more important was whatever we had that they took very good care of. I told you my grandparents had a baby grand in their house, you know what I mean? And I told you, my grandma always has that year's Cadillac. He would always go buy her that one every year, you know what I mean? Sundays, we always get dressed up in suits and we go to church. My grandfather gave to the church. My grandmother was an educator. My aunt was an educator. They all had 4.0 grade point averages. So, and like when we talk, even like when I was a little kid, I told you my grandfather was always trying to get me to be a doctor or a lawyer, nothing else. Like, I want you to be a doctor or a lawyer. I just thought they sound like very boring professions, but and yeah, so it was always like this level of like, this is how it has to be, like off the top, you know what I mean? Like whatever everyone else is doing either. And then my grandfather was so he's a workaholic. He couldn't he couldn't sit down for like 5 seconds, you know what I mean? Whatever we're working, like even when we have like, and my father too, even when you have guests come over to the house too, that's one thing that our family's good about hosting. If you come over to the house, you always treat people with VIP services. But if you came to the house and he was serving you, he really couldn't, like, you're really not really getting interacting with him because he's constantly like trying to do stuff for you. Like, do you have enough to eat? Do you want something to drink? So he's constantly moving around. If he sits down, when he sits down for a little bit, he'll sit down for a little bit, but then he'll get up and he'll start moving. He always has to be moving and working. So, yeah, like, he's a workaholic. To in his 93, when he died, he was still working. And he had money. He was a millionaire. So like, that's what he liked to do. It kept him good. He liked to keep life simple. And that's another thing that I heard, that he really wants to, he just liked to work. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about all that other stuff. You know what I mean? My grandfather wasn't into a lot of extra shit. You know what I mean? He worked, he come home, he eat, he spends time with his wife, they watch a little bit of TV, he'll go to sleep, he'll get up, he'll work. That's how he was, just like a working man every day, you know what I mean? Every day. And I think that as a little kid, I'm Lonnie the Fifth. So like, as a little kid, when I got that name, like, already when I was walking around Chester, like, as a little kid, and I'd be with my older family members, and they're like, oh, who's that? Oh, that's little Lonnie? Oh, and then the older people would give me these long stories about my great-grandfather and how he was, like, known through the whole city. He was a wealthy pie maker, but also he was like me. Everyone knew, everyone hung out with him. They always like to say that he was a ladies' man. That's all they always like to say. And then also at the time, my grandfather was like, I didn't understand it, but I knew that my grandfather was somebody. You know what I mean? I know that my grandfather, when I was a kid, I moved in with my father. We moved onto 3rd Street. Well, my grandfather owned the house that he lived in, and then 2 doors down, he owned that house too. So he gave that to us to be, to live. And I just got the impression that the name Lonnie, and I'm the fifth. I never really met too many people that are the fifth. So in my head, that's just like a big, what Lonnie am I gonna be? That's what I always thought as a little kid. What Lonnie am I gonna? How am I gonna leave my impression? What is my point? I always want to be like, if they were like that, now I'm the fifth, so I'm an accumulation of all the things that they have, and so I have to be better. I can't even be like normal. I have to be like exceeding all of them, and I always felt like that's gonna be hard to live up to, but I try to like stay at it. You know what I mean? That's why I also like I had a rap name, but I wanted to keep Lonnie. You know what I mean? Because like part of it is it's me, number one, but you know I come from a legacy. You know what I mean? And it took me a long time, and it kept that imprint on my head the whole time as growing up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, you're Lonnie. Even when I'm out here, like, if I get with a girl, like, if I have a baby, it's gonna be another Lonnie. So that's gonna be Lonnie 6. So when I be with a woman, I can't just be with any woman, because if we don't work out, then Lonnie's out there and I'm not taking care of Lonnie, you know what I mean? And like that's not what this is, you know what I mean? So it always even kept that impression too, that I have to choose wisely, you know what I mean? Who's a good person to even carry Lonnie to the next one, you know what I mean? So like, I always thought of that. But more importantly, I thought about like, all right, so that one died, and if you could look up each one of them, their obituary and their stories, they're very like big stories. Like, they died a millionaire, they were well known with their Rotary Club, and I have one of 1831 of the original Lonnie. When he had 12 kids, he was naming his kids after his Rotary Club members, and they said he was a great guy. And like, and then you have this other one who's like, his funeral, it was like a whole parade down down 3rd Street, of people celebrating down the street, a whole church full of people. A pastor came from another city to come speak at his thing. So my whole life, this thing about Lonnie is a big deal. Like, I inherited that, you know, even if they didn't have to like put it on me. Like, and even when I walk around now, like I said, they have that big family, so there's